Welcome, everybody. We're just going to wait until most of the participants have made their way in, and then I'm going to get started in just a few minutes. Welcome to the 4 Steps to Success in L&S. I'm going to put something in the chat right now, and I'll do it again later. This is the agenda and handouts for today, so if you're already here, go ahead and click on that link from the chat and start opening up that document for yourself, especially take a look at the agenda. And if you have questions, you can ask them in the Q&A tab. All right, looks like the entrance of participants has slowed down, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Once again, I'm going to put in the chat the link to the agenda for today, so you can go ahead and click over to that and download it for yourself. I will show you it in a minute. Welcome to the 4 Steps to Success in Letters and Science. My name is Tori Bookstein, and I am an advisor in the College of Letters and Science, and this is my favorite part of my job. So I really hope that you enjoy listening to this presentation half as much as I enjoy giving it. And I'm sharing my screen right now to show you the layout for this talk, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about where it comes from. So I'm a Letters and Science advisor. I've been an advisor here for 16 years. I'm also a Cal grad. I graduated like in, the 12th century or whatever. But I double majored in psychology and practice of art. And I actually don't recommend double majors for most students, at least not for the reasons that I did it. But I'll be talking to you today about how to weigh the pros and cons of things like double majors. Because when I was here, I had a really intense time. I had a lot of high highs, I had a lot of low lows, and I made a lot of mistakes. And so I decided I wanted to come back and help other students to learn from my mistakes and have a better time than I did. And now I get to do that, and I get paid to do that. So I totally have the world's best job. This presentation comes from something that happens about 150 times a year. About 150 times a year, a student comes into my advising office and starts to cry. And while they're crying, they'll say something like, "Why didn't anybody tell me this thing in my first semester? It would have made such a difference." So I started keeping track of all of the things that students wished they'd known in their first semesters. And these are they. This is your toolbox. This is your knapsack full of 4 incredibly important tips that will, I hope, change your life and make your time here at Cal so much better, really help you not just survive, but thrive and have a marvelous time. So just real quick, I'm going to show you. This is the link that is in the chat. It is your handouts and important links. And we're going to start with the agenda for this workshop. So the agenda is here, and you might notice if you scroll down, there are 4 steps, but also there are some blanks. Under number 2, there are some blanks. That's to keep you awake. So when I get to number 2, you got to pay attention to see what that is. The other thing I want to let you know is that I usually give this presentation in about 45 minutes, and I've been given more time to do it today, which is good because it's a longer presentation than that. So I'm going to try to remember to speak slowly, but if I start to speak too quickly, you can just put that in the Q&A or put it in the chat. She's talking too fast, because I'm used to having to really rush through this. And yes, I will send the handout link again. There you go. We'll be putting it in the chat about every 10 minutes so that everyone can have it. So no more ado, let's get to your 4 steps to success in letters and science that will hopefully change your life. And the first one is to question the checklist mentality. Now, if we were all here together in a room, I would ask you, hey, what do you think the checklist mentality is? But because we're Zooming, I just get to tell you. The checklist mentality is a way of thinking that most Cal students bring to Cal, which is, what is my checklist? I have to get things done, boom, boom, boom. If I check off everything on my list and graduate, then I'll be ready for my next stage of life. And when you see something on a list of your checklist, you often think, I got to get that out of the way. Like, as an example, I think all of you, when you did your Golden Bear advising with your advisors over the past few weeks, and you found out about something called the 7-course breath, I bet 90% of you looked at that and went, oh, I want to get those out of the way. because that's the way we think. And there's a reason that Cal students tend to think about things in a checklist mentality. It's because this is how you got into Cal, right? You got into Cal by checking off boxes. I got to get these certain grades. I've got to take these certain classes. I've got to fill out this application and get it all in on a certain time. And it's very it's very structured like a checklist to do this. And you all are extremely good at the checklist mentality. But what we figured out is that this is a great way to get into Cal. Now, you didn't just get into Cal because you're good at checklists, right? You got into Cal because you're brilliant and you have brains the size of Jupiter and you worked really, really hard. This is a great way to get into Cal, but the checklist mentality is not always the best way to be a student at Cal. This is so critically important that let me repeat it. The checklist mentality is not always the best way to be a student at Cal, even though we trained you to do this, because following the checklist mentality just in a really limited way can make it harder to get into graduate school, and it can make it harder to get a job. Let's talk about why. The first reason that the checklist mentality can make it harder to get into grad school or to get a job is that you may be too worried about not finishing the checklist in time to actually see if you like your major. And I'm going to tell you in about 400 different ways today why it is so important that students in the College of L&S at Cal really try to like your major, find a major that you really love. And I'll give you some examples of majors that people often think are going to be one way, but they end up being very different. And it's really important to know what you're getting from your major. So the first example I know really well is the psychology major, because I majored in psychology and practice of art. And I chose the psychology major because I thought it was going to be about empathy and therapy and counseling and social justice. And it turned out that when I was here in the 12th century, the psychology department was not so much focused on those things, but it was focused on biology and rat brains. Rat brains, social justice. There's not necessarily a whole bunch of overlap there, but because I never explored my major, I never questioned my major, I never tried to figure out what the psych department was going to give me, I had no idea. So I got to my senior year and I was like, okay, I finished all of the classes on rat brains and REM sleep and neurons. And where are all the classes that I can take now on empathy and therapy and social justice? And people were like, ha, you're so funny. You don't want to be this person. You want to know what you're going to get from your major, not just go into a major because you think you know what it is, but actually figure out what it's going to give you, because majors differ between schools. Psychology at Cal is not the same as psychology at Michigan, psychology at Harvard, psychology at Stanford. I'm going to teach you today the steps that you need to make sure that you question your major over the next 2 years. And you do have 2 years to do it so that you don't end up feeling like a fool like I did and being like, oh, I didn't get from my major what I thought I would. Similarly, I picked the art major because I wanted to learn how to paint like Frida Kahlo. I learned how to talk about Frida Kahlo. Hear the difference? Our art major is not so much about production of beautiful pieces as it is about history, composition, theory, and analysis. And it's kind of the same for our music and film departments as well. These are not production schools. They're history, theory, composition, and analysis schools. Although I hear that the film department is actually maybe moving a little bit more into production, but don't trust me. I'm going to teach you how to investigate your major. So if you're headed for the film major, you can check that out. The philosophy major here at Cal is unexpectedly and strangely mathematical. And our math major, I'm not even kidding, is unexpectedly and strangely philosophical. So I'm going to teach you how to figure out what you're going to get from your major so you're not surprised, so you actually like your major. And we'll talk more about why it's so important to really like your major. The last thing on this slide is a really important concept called a capped major. And most of you have already heard about capped majors in your Golden Bear Advising. A capped major here at Cal could also be called an impacted major. It's a major that doesn't let in everybody who wants to be in that major. And that's just a reality of limited resources and the way that universities are structured. It's not my favorite concept. So when I'm Queen of the World, I'm going to fix this and there won't be any more capped majors. But so when I run for Queen of the World, please vote for me. But in the meanwhile, we have to learn to work with this system. And the thing about capped majors that I want you to know is that they make it harder for you to evaluate your major choice. They make it harder for you to question your major, to evaluate that major, because you're really so busy trying to get them to take you, right? So let's say you're thinking, oh, I might want to transfer to the Haas School of Business, or I might want to be an economics major, or I might want to be, another major that has a limitation, a statistics major. And then you end up spending all your time going, take me, take me, take me. I'm going to be the world's best statistics major. And what might you forget to do? You might forget to see if you even like this major that you're headed for. It's like if you're walking down the street and you see someone over there and they're totally hot and you're like, oh my God, that person is totally hot. I want to go on a date with them. And then you look around and you're like, oh, everybody wants to go on a date with them, but I'm going to be the one who wins their heart. I'm going to get that Friday night date. Hey, that's great. You will win that Friday night date, go out with them, have a wonderful time, do Netflix and chill or whatever is happening these days. But you wouldn't marry them because they're hot. You might think this is a good idea, but trust me, it doesn't work. You marry them, you spend your life with somebody because you want to talk to them all night. And that is how we want you to feel about your major. Ideas that you want to talk about all night. It is super important for you to understand that it's not just about them taking you, but it's about, is this major worth your time, your blood, sweat, and tears, your amazing intellectual capability? Any major would be lucky to have you. Um, and so it's really important for you to make sure that there's a good fit on both sides. It's kind of like if you were looking at that hot person in the street, you're like, hey, turn around, show me the backside. I want to make sure that you are as attractive as I think you are. All right, moving on to the second problem with the checklist mentality. You may continue on a path that is not right for you or that is not well designed because you have never questioned it. And again, I know this so well because it happened to me. Because 24 million years ago, when there were dinosaurs walking on this campus and I was 12 years old and living in Michigan, I would tell people, I want to help people. And everyone would say, oh my gosh, you're such a nice little girl. You should be a psychology major. And I was like, okay. No critical thinking went into this decision whatsoever. I didn't know that I was going to go to Cal. I didn't know how Cal taught psychology. But every time I said, I'm going to be a psych major, everyone said, I approve of that. That sounds reasonable. I'm not worried about you. You're not going to starve. And this is what happens, and we see this all the time, is that people around you approve of the choice you're making, and it feels like the right choice, and so you never question it. But it turns out I'm good proof that you can decide you want something and think it's great for 20 years and then realize that was actually not a good fit. And so I really want to encourage you to question your major choice, even if you've known about it, felt it was a good idea since you were 12, even if everyone around you thinks it's a good idea. And here are some examples of decisions that people make that often turn out to not be such a good idea here, but you don't know unless you question them. The first thing I'll tell you is most of our students who want to be doctors, nurses, optometrists, we all come in and we think, well, I better be a biology student because the pre-med requirements overlap with the bio requirements. But the thing is, you may be more likely to get into medical school if you major in something that you actually love, if you don't love biology. If you major in music and get A's in your upper division music classes and write a beautiful thesis on music, and you do fine on all of the prerequisites for medical school, like the MCAT and the classes and things like that, you're more likely to get in than somebody who stays in the bio major because they're like, well, this seemed like the right path at the time, but I don't actually like upper division biology classes, and you end up getting C's. That person has a much lower GPA. They have less connection with professors to get good letters of rec. Another thing we see all the time is students who major in computer science because you assume that will get you a career as a programmer. But it turns out that what's much more important than your degree is your job skills. And I'll be talking a lot more about how do you get those job skills. But it turns out that in L&S, you don't usually get job skills in the classroom. The computer science major is, like the rest of Berkeley, an intellectual exploration of the beautiful ideas and the concepts and the thinking and the real intellectual developments of the field. It doesn't teach you, here's how you go into Google and get a job. You can go into Google and get a job, if you know how to program in the language that they want you to program in, and you can teach that to yourself if you don't love upper division computer science classes. So you get to decide what you're going to major in and what you're not, but it's really important to check if you think that a career is going to give you the skills for landing a job. I'm going to teach you today how to confirm if you get those skills in the classroom or if you will end up having to get them somewhere else. We see students all the time majoring in things like economics, biology, because they sound practical. They sound like they're going to make money. And so you liked one econ class and you say, oh, I might major in econ. And everyone goes, that's a great idea. You're going to get a great job. I'm not worried about you. What happens if you say you're going to major in art history or Celtic studies or ethnic studies? People freak out. People worry so much, you're going to starve. That is not a good major for you because you're not going to make any money. I'm not part of your community who helped raise you to watch you starve in the street. But here's the thing. Those people who are worried about us and telling us that our majors are terrible, horrible, impractical choices, as frustrating as it is, they're actually doing us a really, really frustrating favor because they're forcing you to question your major. If you still major in art history after everyone around you has been like, please don't major in art history, I'm so worried you're going to starve, it's because you're going to do the steps I'm going to teach you today and the steps that I'm going to teach you in the 7 steps to choose a major workshop, which is one of the other workshops I'm going to refer you to. You will have visited the upper division classes. You will have looked at the books in the bookstore. You will have looked at what research questions are being asked in the department. And you will have gone to one of our 2 career centers and talked about, here's the job I think I want. Here's the job skills I think I need. How do I get them? Will I be getting them in the classroom or outside? So, and all of those steps will be much more broken down in depth later in this presentation and also in the 7 steps to choose a major presentation that you'll be seeing. We're doing it live on August 23rd, and we also have it recorded on our website. Finally, so to sum that up, the point is, if you're majoring in art history, you will be questioning your major. But if you're thinking of majoring in something that sounds practical to the rest of the world, you might just be coasting along like I did from age 12. Psychology sounds great. Psychology sounds great. So you owe it to yourself to question your major. Even if you're coming in here to Berkeley totally sure, even if you're like, of course I'm going to major in computer science. I've been programming since I was like 10 years old. There's no question about it. I really encourage you to still investigate your major to make sure that computer science at Cal is what you expect computer science to be, because I am proof that you can be sure of what a major is about and be totally wrong, and that everyone around you can think a major is a great fit for you and they can be totally wrong. And it doesn't take that long to investigate your major, so I really recommend it, and I'll teach you how. Finally, what I see a lot is students who double major imperfectly instead of building your own major perfectly. And this happens so much at Berkeley because we have so many ideas in our big, brilliant brains, and sometimes all of those ideas don't fit into just one major. So, for instance, let's say that you are passionate about Justice Sonia Sotomayor. You want to know, how did she get onto the Supreme Court? How did she break the barriers that she broke to get up there? But we don't really have a department of Sonia Sotomayor. So, like, if you wanted to study her, you might think, well, maybe I should double major because there's some classes relevant to her in Chicanic studies, and there's some classes relevant to her in political science or gender and women's studies. So I guess I have to double major so I can get all those classes that are relevant to my ideas. But if I double major, there's also a lot of other classes that are not relevant to my ideas that I guess I have to sit through, huh? But you don't have to sit through the classes that are not relevant because you can build your own major. We have 2 make your own majors in the College of Letters and Science that I will tell you about in the 7 steps to choose a major workshop. And you take 2 classes from each of 3 departments and pull them together and write a thesis just on what you care about. We really don't want you to spend a second in a class that you don't love without a really good reason. Because what else could you do with that time and that tuition money and that blood, sweat, and tears? So you may be wondering now, I don't have the time to question my major. I don't have the time to step away from the checklist. There's barely any time to be here. And that's a really common myth, but you actually do have plenty of time. Because here's the thing, you have to get to 120 units to graduate, and you have 8 semesters to do it. And many of you will come in with units from AP exams or units from community college classes that you took or your international baccalaureate. But even if you don't come in with any units, you still can easily get to 120 units in 8 semesters. And your major is usually only about 60 units. And your breadth and essential skills, which I know you all studied carefully in GBA last week, that's usually only about 24 units. So that's a total of about 84 units. 120 minus 84 leaves you with about 36 units at least, and many students take more than 120 units. 36 units of, I don't know, let's do something fun. Let's, take this class that I didn't follow that path, but, that's okay because I had extra time. You've got more time than you need to finish a major. You've got the time to investigate it. Let me show you how this works. So this is a typical 4-year program plan, and you can ignore the dates because it's almost 10 years old, but luckily the way that calendars work hasn't changed in 10 years. So you can see there's 8 semesters for a typical student's time here and 4 summers. Now we can start by filling in the prerequisite classes that you would need to take to declare your major. And you might be looking at this and saying, but if there's 4 majors I'm choosing between, I would have to take 4 times as many prerequisites, right? How do I fit that in? But you don't. And again, I'm really going to urge you to do the workshop 7 steps to choose a major, because it's going to teach you how to choose a major without sitting through all of the prerequisite classes, because that takes too long. So you can choose a major without wasting a ton of time in classes that lead toward majors you don't end up choosing. So I really encourage you to go to that workshop on August 23rd or to watch the copy that's on our website. So here are 5 prerequisite classes, which is the amount that many students end up taking. It's sort of an average for lots of different majors. Then you can see that I can fill in the rest of the major requirements. Most majors have between like 7 and 9 or 10 upper division requirements. So I think we put in 8 here. Yes, so there's 8 upper division major requirements. Look at this schedule. This student is done with all of their major requirements, and there are no more than 2 classes in any one semester, and in 2 of the semesters, there's only 1 class. So then we can add in some essential skills and breadth. And this is kind of a typical amount that students usually have to take in addition to their major and their high school work. And then you can see, after you've done all of your prerequisite work, your major work, and your breadth and essential skills, you've got all these empty slots. If you're taking about 4 classes a semester, you've got 1 empty slot in each of your first 2 semesters, 2 empty slots in each of your second 2, 1 again in these 2, 2 here, and then 3 extra slots in your last semester. And that doesn't even keep into account all of the classes that you might take over summers. So let's take a look at the kind of enrichment that you might put into those extra spots. You might put in research. You might do summer study abroad or a full year abroad. You might do a program called UC Berkeley in Washington, D.C. You might get an internship. You might do more research here. You might just take more fun classes. You have the time here at UC Berkeley to do this right. You have the time to do this well. You have the time to explore your major, to go one direction and then maybe go another direction and then maybe go another direction. You even have the time to have a little fun. And of course, you have to leave time to fall in love several different times with several different people, because that's what undergraduate school is about as well. So what can I do to avoid the checklist mentality? I'm so glad you asked. What I want you to do is I want you to dream big. Okay, I want you to really think big, dream big, believe big, because you're gonna get big results that way. And what do I mean by dream big? What I want you to do is I want you to think back a few months to a day that I hope was really a wonderful day in your life. The day way back earlier this year when you got into Berkeley, right? And I hope that you were like, oh my God, I'm the smartest person I know. And I'm going to have 6 majors and study abroad 4 times. And I'm going to win the university medal. It's going to be awesome, right? We have these really big dreams. But then, you start your orientation and you do your GBA and you're answering all the questions and you're starting to think about what it might really be like to be at Cal, and maybe it feels a little intimidating to be starting school right after a pandemic. And then maybe when you get here, it might be even more a little bit intimidating because you're like, oh my God, you look around and you are not the smartest person that you know anymore. It can be really intimidating to come to Cal, and your dreams can shrink real fast. I'm not going to have six majors. I might not even have one major. I'm just going to go hide for a while. This might happen to you in the fall, and it's okay. It's normal. I'm going to talk about that in step three. But what I want you to do is I want you to remember those big dreams that you had back when you got into Berkeley, and I want you to hold on to them because I know that you're brilliant and I know you can achieve so many great things while you're here. So I want you to write them down. So this is a picture of one of the handouts that is on the Google document that we keep sharing in the chat, and I'll share it again. It's just your basic four-year program plan, and the link actually takes you to one where you can type into a PDF. You can type into it right online. And I want you to make yourself a bunch of copies of this and just start making rough drafts of your time here. I want you to, oops, don't do that. Oh, huh. It's not going to the next slide like it's supposed to. Wait a minute, come on. There we go. I want you to go somewhere quiet. And I want you to think about all the things you want to get out of your 4 years here. And then I really want you to dream big. And what I mean is don't let anything fall off the list until you've asked if it can be done. You can do study abroad. You can do research. You can try out different majors. You could maybe transfer to a different college here at Cal or a different college somewhere else. There's all sorts of possibilities. You could spend a semester at another school in the States. There's lots of different things you could do. Students often come to me and say, well, I wanted to study abroad 3 different times, but I just figured I couldn't fit it in, so I didn't ask. You might be able to fit that in. The worst thing we can say is if we can't make it work, but if you never ask, you'll never know. So please don't let anything fall off the list until you've asked if it can be done. And when you're writing your list of classes that you need to take on this piece of paper or on the computer, I want you to ask yourself, am I taking this just to fill a requirement? And does it sound boring? And if you are taking a class that sounds boring, is there another class that you can take that fills the same need but is going to be thrilling? Like, for instance, for the American Cultures requirement, you can take the Southern Border class, which is all about the interactions between the southern border of the United States, United States and Mexico, and immigration and all sorts of issues of race and culture there. Or there's also an AC class that is about biology and that is about the genetics and the science and the non-science and all of the ideas about race and culture and things like that. So completely different ways to fulfill that requirement. So I really encourage you. We want you to treasure your requirements. We want you to find a class that's going to be thrilling to fulfill each requirement. And if your schedule is mostly classes that sound boring, just to click off requirements, does it have to be that way? Because spoiler, it doesn't have to be that way. You can love most or all of your classes if you know that that is what you are looking for. So now I'm going to talk to you about a couple of goals that got me into a lot of trouble when I was here at Berkeley. But nope, first there's this slide. So here's another way to look at how to treasure your time here. Instead of just looking for lists of classes to be handed to you, instead of following that checklist, I want you to choose for yourself. I want you to ask yourself, how much will I treasure this class? Will I get another chance to study this after my 4 years here? Will it open my mind? Will it teach me new things? Yes, you have to complete your requirements. And so maybe once a year you want to ask an advisor, what are my requirements? How am I doing? But the rest of the time, I really encourage you to be looking for what else can I do that is bigger? What can I do that is thrilling? How can I take advantage of this? The only chance I have to be a Cal student. We want you to love most or all of your classes. So here are 2 things that got me into a lot of trouble when I was here that are pretty common goals for Cal students, which is double majoring and getting a high GPA for the sake of a high GPA. So, and in terms of double majors, Cal students tend to think 1 major is good, but 2 majors is better. And we also tend to think if you don't have at least a certain GPA, whether it's a 2.5 or a 3 or a 3.5 or a 3.8, some magic number, you'll never get into grad school. But it turns out that both of those are Lies, even like a 3.8 GPA and a double major, these things that feel like showing off, they do not automatically get you a job or get you into grad school. A double major and grades just for high grades sake can actually get in the way of your success. And the reason for this is because there are two kinds of students who go to Berkeley. So this is a picture of me at UC Berkeley, and you can probably guess what year I went to school by what year those clothes were fashionable. Just kidding. They were never fashionable. I was someone who was obsessed with grades and my transcript and my academic performance. That was the way that I got into Cal. That was the way that my family understood what college meant. If you get good grades, if you double major, if you show off, that is what's going to open the doors to your future. So that's what I did. I stayed in the psychology major because I was getting A's. And I thought, okay, if I'm getting A's, this must be the right major for me. And I never noticed something incredibly important. I never noticed that I was bored. I would go to class, I would take my test, I would get my A's, and then I would leave and do what I really loved, which was counseling and social justice. And like, I never went to office hours because I didn't have any questions. And I didn't speak up that much in class because, it all kind of made sense and I didn't have any real passion for it or anything new to say. And I didn't join the honor society or go try to do research or anything because I wasn't really interested in any of that. But I had great grades and I was a double major and I was thinking, I am so impressive. And I had no idea how wrong I was until the day I decided that I needed to go get a letter of recommendation to go to psychology grad school. So I went to one of my professor's office hours and I was like, hi, professor. I know that I don't talk much in class, but obviously you know me because I get a lot of A's. And I'm thinking I want to go to psychology grad school because I really have no idea what else to do with my life. So would you mind writing me a letter of recommendation for psychology grad school? And I will never forget the look on his face. And I will never forget what he said because he looked at me and he went, "Ooh, I was afraid that you were going to ask me for a letter of recommendation." True story. And I was like, that's not the answer I was expecting. But what he was kind enough to tell me that day was that I was not ready to apply to graduate school. I would not get into psychology graduate school at that time because I had shown absolutely no passion for any of the research questions, for any of the learning, for any of the intellectual adventures that the psychology department was focused on. My professors could tell that I was going to class, getting my grades, and leaving. They could tell that the department did not matter to me, and so I did not matter to my department. The students who matter to their departments are the students who are so excited about what's going on in the classroom that they can't hold it in. And those are the students that get into grad school. The students who matter to their departments, the students who get into the grad schools, are the ones who are like, oh my God, professor, that reading that you sent out was so cool. So I went on Google and I found 7 other articles on the same topic. So I printed them out. I printed copies for the whole class. Can I pass them out? Can we talk about them today? Please, please. And oh, by the way, I'm really sorry that I scared you outside your lab at 5 in the morning. I'm not a stalker. I just really want to be on your research team. And I even have my own safety goggles. Please, please, can I work with you? If you are scaring people because of how much you want to talk about the ideas in your department, doors will open for you that never opened for Tori Bookstein with her great grades and her double major because I had no passion for what I was doing. And what do I mean by doors opening? Your professors will change your life if they are excited about the conversations they are having with you about ideas. Let me repeat, your professors will change your life. They will say things like, sure, Why don't you pass out those 7 articles you printed out? And in fact, why don't you facilitate that discussion? And then afterwards, let's go get coffee because I need a TA for next semester and it pays really good. And I'm thinking you might want that job. Oh, and by the way, I have a center for researching that topic in Barbados. We have a team of about 50 researchers over there, and we're looking for an intern for the summer, and we've got funding for flights and housing. Would you like to apply to maybe be a research intern with me in Barbados this summer and my team? Oh, and that idea you were discussing that you're so interested in, do you know that there's a research center at Harvard completely devoted to studying that? Have you thought about going to grad school at Harvard? I think that might be a good fit for you, and I'd really like to write your recommendation letter. Your professors are looking for people to connect with intellectually, and they will make such a difference for you if you are those people. So it's really important that you try to find a major that excites your passion, that instead of being Tori, who's obsessed with grades and academic performance, that you be one of these cool students who actually care about learning. I don't know if you know any of these characters, but these are 4 characters who really love learning in school that I'm very fond of. But I was not those people. So I knew I wasn't going to get into grad school, but I was like, hey, I still have a double major. I still have great grades. I'll apply for jobs, and I know I'm going to get interviews and I'm going to get jobs. And I was half right because I got interviews. I got interviews because I had a Cal transcript, and people look at that and go, you're so smart. But then I never landed the job. And the reason that I never landed the job was because of a question that I got in every interview, which is, I see that you're super smart, but what are your job skills? And I was like, I just spent 18 years learning how to be good at school. I was supposed to be doing something else. And now here's the thing, I worked to put myself through school, the same as everybody else. You know, I worked all sorts of jobs, but I picked jobs where I could do my homework because I thought my transcript was going to be the thing that was opening doors, that the high GPA and the double major would make people say, I'm going to hire you. So, you know, I was a security monitor where I could do homework. And I didn't learn any job skills like filing, supervising, organizing, computer programs, you know, running agendas, whatever it is. And it turns out you don't tend to get those in the classroom here, but we'll talk more about where you can get them and why that is okay. So double majoring and getting great grades really didn't work out for me, but that does not mean that it won't work out for you, because now you know that you just need to figure out what you're going to get from it and what you're not. There are basically 2 really good reasons to double major. And the first one is if I'm wrong. The first one is if, when you get into the job interview, they're going to be like, yes, we're so glad you double majored. That's what we want. And the best way to figure this out is to ask somebody who might be hiring in the field that you decide you want to go into. So let's say you want to be an actor and you call up one of these amazing, brilliant people and you're like, Aquafina, my God, I love your work. I want to work in Hollywood. How do I get hired? And she'll say, oh, if you want to be a star, you should definitely double major. Okay, if Aquafina says that, listen to her. Don't listen to me. She's way funnier than I am anyway. But does this ever happen? In my 20 years of being an advisor, I have literally never heard of any job interview or any grad school application where they said, we're so glad you double majored. If this happens to you, please come tell me, because I don't want to be giving out inaccurate advice. But the reason that this doesn't happen is because of something that everyone knows about all of you. Everyone knows that you, Cal students, are good at school. They don't need to see more school. They want to know what else you can do. Years after I graduated, a recruiter told me something I really wish I'd known while I was here, which is that doing a double major and thinking you're showing off is like doing your senior year in high school twice and thinking you're showing off. You're not showing off because you've already done work at that level. Everyone knows you can do more work at that level. That doesn't show them anything new. They want to know what you can do that's tougher, that's more part of what their goals are, that's more towards the future. One sec. So, and I want to talk also about high grades for high grades' sake here, because You're going to be trying to see if you need to get a 3.0 or a 3.2 or a 3.5 or whatever for your goals. And sometimes you do need a certain GPA, which frustrates me, but when I'm queen of the world, I will fix that. But in the meantime, it's really important to make sure that if you're shooting for high grades to try to hit a number to get into grad school, that you actually need to. And I want to give you a really clear example. Let's say that you have a 3.59 and you want to go to law school at some shishi law school. And you've heard that this law school will only let people in with a 3.6. And you're like, okay, so I'm going to have to raise my GPA. So what can I do? Well, I already speak, Gaelic. So I'm going to take the first semester of Gaelic 1. Gosh, I don't even know if we offer Gaelic. I feel so bad. But I'm going to take Gaelic 1, 5 units. I'm going to get an A, and it's going to raise my GPA. And by golly, you do this. You take 16 weeks, a whole semester of Gaelic 1. You get A's. It's really easy. 16 weeks and all that tuition money and time, and you have learned nothing in that time. And so what I really want you to do before you make that choice, which might be the best choice for you, but before you make that choice, I want you to call up Shishi Law School or Shishi Medical School or whatever school it is that has this GPA in, and I want you to ask them about your choice. You can say, I have a 3.59. You're looking for people with a 3.6. I can take 5 units of a language I already speak this semester and get my GPA above a 3.6. That's easy. But I wouldn't learn anything. Or I could do this law internship and clerk for the Supreme Court, but it doesn't give me grade points. But I'd learn a whole lot more about being, a legal scholar and be ready for your law school. Would that make me more impressive, or would the GPA be more important because I don't necessarily have time for both? You actually can ask people a question that literally specific before you waste time on a class where you don't learn anything. So, but again, I said there were 2 good reasons to double major and get high grades. And the first one is if you do determine that, yes, you need them. But the second good reason is really even simpler. If it happens because you just love these classes so much, you double major because you want to do anthropology all day and astrophysics all night, and you cannot live without a single class. And so if you do decide that you want to double major because you're so happy with those classes, you just need to know that you've still got to save time outside of those classes to be as competitive for your future as the single major next to you who has 25 more hours a week to be competitive for that job interview, job skills question, or for that graduate school application. Because the job interview is not going to ask about your double major. The grad school application is not going to ask about your double major. So you've got to make sure that you save enough time to prepare the things they are going to ask about. So again, I'm not saying you shouldn't double major. You might really love it. It might be perfect for you. Now I know that you know what you get from it and what you don't. So I'm not worried about you if you double major. I know that you will still make time to prepare for your future. So now, if we were all in a room together, I would ask you all, what's the next question after double majors? And usually within about 2 seconds, someone says, minors. Because the thing about minors is we kind of pick them for the same reasons that we pick double majors. Well, it seems like it might be a good idea for my future. Or look, I have a few more units I have to take before I graduate and I don't know what to do. So why don't I put a checklist in there? A minor gives me a checklist. But it turns out there are really only 2 good reasons for a minor. And the first good reason for a minor is the same for a double major if it turns out that that minor will actually be helpful to you in the future. But the thing is, you don't want to assume it. I am a big fan of data. I am a big fan of getting the actual information rather than thinking, oh, this is probably a good idea. Oh, I'm sure that'll be useful. Get the data. And the way that you get the data is to talk to the people who will be evaluating you in the future. And our career centers can both help you with this, but I want to give you a really good example. One of my favorite students wanted to be a teacher in the Los Angeles School District, K through 12. And she was fluent in Spanish. And so she was like, I'm sure that that's a selling point. I know there are a lot of monolingual Spanish speaking families in the LA School District. But how do I put that on my resume? How do I make sure that when I'm applying for this job that they know that I'm bilingual in Spanish? Maybe I should minor in Spanish. Maybe that would be useful. So then this student looked at the minor in Spanish, and it's 5 upper division classes in Spanish languages and literature. And for some people, this is a glorious minor or major. It's such a great department. For this student, it was like, those are not my thing. They look really boring to me. But then she said the thing that every Berkeley student pretty much would say, which is, it doesn't matter if it's hard. It doesn't matter if it's boring. I want to get that job. And if I have to pass these classes to get that job, I'm going to do that because I'm going to achieve my goal because I'm an academic superstar, which all of you are. But before she did that, she did something very smart. She called up the district and she was like, hey, I'm going to apply after I graduate from my teaching credential program to be a teacher in the Los Angeles school district. I am fluent in Spanish. Do you need me to like get a minor in Spanish and put that on my resume? Is that going to put my resume to the top of the pile? And they were like, girl, just tell us that you speak Spanish in your cover letter. We don't care if you've read Cervantes. We just want to know you can talk to our families. And so my student saved herself 20 units of classes that would have bored her because she questioned her assumptions about whether or not the major and minor were necessary. The other good reason for a minor is pretty simple. It's if you love all 5 classes that you would take for the minor so much that you would take them anyway. Because if you don't love them all that much, then what you're doing is might as welling yourself into wasting so many resources. And this happens all the time at Berkeley. Let me show you. You take 3 education classes and you loved them. They're so amazing. And you're like, this is great fun. If I take 2 more education classes, why, look, that's an education minor. And that sounds like that's probably useful for my future. And then you look at those 2 classes and you're like, oh, those 2 classes look really boring, but I'm so close. I might as well finish. I know that that sounds familiar to you because that is such a typical Cal thing, because as Cal students, we love to finish our plates. It is really, really hard for us to stop when we're only 2 classes away from finishing something that gives us a line on our transcript. But those 2 classes, those 2 upper division classes in education, that's 8 units. If you are a typical student, that might be more than 2/3 or almost 2/3 of your 13-unit semester. If you're taking a heavy semester of 16 units because you've been here a few semesters, then that's half of your semester. If you're a student parent or a student with a disability, that might be your entire semester. You might take only 8 units or 6 units in a semester with our permission, which is perfectly fine. So that 8 units of education, that's your whole semester. Semesters are 16 weeks long. Semesters cost you thousands of dollars. 16 weeks of work and thousands of dollars of tuition and all of that blood, sweat, and tears and effort for 2 classes you don't like, for a minor you don't need. But we see this all the time because Cal students like to finish their plates. It's like if you ordered this gorgeous Thali dinner or this enormous pizza and you ate 90% of it, and then you get to the last piece of pizza or the last piece of samosa and you're like, oh, I'm so full, but you know, I might as well eat it because I paid for it, right? No, you don't have to eat the last piece of pizza. You don't have to eat the last samosa. We don't want you to spend a second in a course that you don't love without a really good reason, because what else could you do with that time, with that tuition money, with that effort that would work more towards your goals and your priorities for your future? All right, so that was step 1. The rest of the steps go by a whole lot more quickly, I promise. Here's step 2. For success in the College of Letters and Science, know your 3 jobs. And this is the part of the agenda that was blank. So I want you to, make some notes in your phone or write it down on a piece of paper like old-fashioned cave people used to do. Here are your 3 jobs. Find the major you'll love to study, find and prepare for the career you'll love to do, and learning for learning's sake. Let's talk about the first one. Find the major you'll love to study. I do mean find, okay? I really want you to question your major. You might end up with the same major that you came in with, but most of us don't. So let's talk about what this means. The major you'll love to study. What is studying? If we were in a room together, I'd have you all like popcorn, all your ideas of studying is this and that. And what you usually say is reading, writing, tests, discussion sections, analysis, doing research projects, writing a thesis, doing experiments in a lab, staying up all night during finals week, taking tests, crying during finals week, Facebooking the library, that kind of thing. So the major that you love to study is the major where all of those things sounds awesome, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I got up at 6 a.m. because I was so excited to go to my bio lab. I can't wait to go. And you can love your major that much if you know that that is what you are looking for. But what kind of major are we taught to look for? We are taught to look for the practical major, right? The major that leads directly to a job, the major where you can be hired based on your schoolwork. So, in the College of Letters and Science at UC Berkeley, there are arguably no practical majors. Surprise! But I'm serious, and it's really important that you understand this because this is the school that you chose. This is our style of learning, and it's different from other schools. If you go to San Diego State, a perfectly fine school, you can major in event planning and hospitality. And in your classroom, for grades and grade points, you get job training on how to plan events and how to be hospitable. And if you go to a job interview to be an event planner and you hold up your transcript, they'll look at your transcript and they'll say, I know that program. If you got A's in that program, I know that you know what you're doing. I'm going to hire you based on your transcript. You walk into the same job interview with a double major in biochemistry and Asian American studies from UC Berkeley, and they're going to be like, oh my God, you're so smart. But then they're going to ask, what are your job skills? Because they know you didn't learn event planning in the classroom at Cal or at Harvard or at Michigan or at Stanford. So the Cal State degree prepares you 100% for the job interview, but for just one job. The UC Berkeley degree prepares you 50%. It gets you in the door, but for any job interview. And it's your job to get the job skills, to answer the job skills question. And I am almost to the part of this presentation where I tell you how to get that answer. So bear with me. But here's the thing. Once you accept that you're not going to get job skills in the classroom, it changes things. And this can be kind of a hard thing to accept. Like, oh my God, Tori, I didn't know I had to do more than just study. Like, I don't have time to do outside stuff. Why didn't you tell me my degree wouldn't be practical? Hang in there, because I really am going to give you a really important tip in just a couple minutes. But I just want you to be like, okay, I'll trust Tori for a minute. I'll make this paradigm shift and I'll accept that I can find the major I love to study because I'm going to get my job skills elsewhere. And when that happens and you're free to major in what you love to study, that's when the magic happens. Because if we rewind 10 minutes in my presentation, what happens when you major in what you love to study? Okay, I can't hear you. But your professors will change your life. Your professors will open those doors for you. You can have a richer experience. You can be more well set up for grad school and for jobs if you major in something that matches your passion. This is why you owe it to yourself to question your major. And so finally, I'm going to tell you how to do it. So in order to find the major you'll love to study, the best tool that I know of is the 7 Steps workshop. I'm totally biased. I wrote it. It's my workshop. If you're tired of me, then maybe it may not be the best tool for you. But if you don't mind listening to me talk again, I'm pretty proud of it. And it's very efficient because it's 7 steps outside of taking classes that help you to know your major pretty quickly. We also have major choice workshops run by the graduate student mentors in the College of Letters and Science. We have major choice workshops run by the career centers, by the EOP program. So there's lots of different ways, and I encourage you to take more than one major choice workshop. You also can visit the upper division classes in the major that you like and the books in the bookstore. See if you're going to love to study this. Ask, what are the professors researching? Because you really want to care about their research questions, because that's when you're going to care about their cool little seminar classes, and you're going to want to be in their labs, and they're going to want you in their labs. And of course, you can consider an individual major. We have 2 of those, and we'll tell you all about that in any major choice workshop, especially the 7 Steps workshop. So you question your major, you major in what you love to study, because you know that your second job is to find and prepare for the career you'll love to do, to get the answer to that job skills question. And you can do this easily outside of the classroom in the 4 years that you're here. And one of the things that can make this easier to think about, first of all, lots of students tell me, I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life. How am I supposed to figure that out? Don't worry. You don't need to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. I just had a midlife crisis. I know you're not going to know what you want to do in 20 years. All you need to figure out is the first job that you want to have after you finish your undergraduate career or after you finish your schooling. What's that first job you want to have? And then your career will build on that. The other thing that can make it easier to figure out what you want to do is to remember that doing, you see that big blue arrow there on that screen pointing at the word do, doing is different from studying. Studying, I discussed before, is reading, writing, arguing, crying in the library, taking finals, tests, stuff like that. But doing is just one thing. Doing is being paid to make a product. You just want to figure out the first product you want to be paid to make after you finish your schooling. I get paid to make informed students, and I love my job. I also try to make you laugh, but that's my freebie bonus. You might want to get paid to make happy kindergartners. You might want to get paid to make cool iPhone applications. You might want to get paid to make delicious pastries. You just have to figure out what's the product you want to be paid to make. And the places on campus that can help you with this are our 2 career centers. Now, folks, this is arguably the most important slide in this slideshow. Let me repeat. This is arguably the most important slide in this slideshow because this is what makes the esoteric, ivory tower, liberal arts, no job skills in the classroom system work for you. Because here's where you're going to make it practical. So I want you to go to one or both of our career centers this year. If not in your first semester, make sure to start it in your second semester. They can help you find the major you'll love to study. They can help you find and prepare for a career you'll love to do, which means finding out what is the job skills question they're going to ask me, what job skills do I need to get, and how do I get them. You can also verify if there is a necessary connection between the major you love, the major that you have, and the career you want, because just because I'm telling you I don't see that very often, don't trust me. You're going to figure out by talking to the people in the industry that interests you, how important is it that you major in something specific? Will you get the job skills at Cal, or where do you get those job skills? Very important slide. All right, job number 3, learning for learning's sake. Now, this is the thing that Cal students tell me all the time. I didn't know I had the time to do this because I was just following the checklist, right? I just did my major requirements and my job preparation. And is there more time? Yes. There's more time, and we want you to have some fun. We want you to learn some things just because you can. Here are some of the great opportunities for learning and scholarship. The first one I want to tell you about is we really want you to treasure your 7-course breadth, which I know goes completely against the checklist mentality. But instead of just saying, oh, I need an arts and literature, I'll just grab that one because it fits my schedule, or oh, I'll knock them out at the community college this summer, which I know a bunch of you are thinking, right? Instead, I want you to look at the list of breadth courses and I want you to scroll down them until you go, oh, I didn't know that I could take that and have that fulfill breadth. That sounds really great. Treasure your 7-course breadth. Take your time with your 7-course breadth. It is our gift to you to make sure that you step away from that checklist mentality a little bit, that you take classes that are outside of your comfort zone. They can be pass, not pass graded. We really want you to treasure them. Number 2 is something called the guide game, and I actually teach you how to do that in the 7 steps to choose a major workshop, but pretty much it's just look through our guide that lists all of our classes at guide.berkeley.edu. Look through all of them and look at classes that you're like, well, I would never take this for my major, but it sounds cool. Maybe I should take it. Number 3 is our discovery courses, and this is one of my favorite things to tell you about because these are some of students' favorite classes. The discovery courses are all designed to fulfill breadth requirements, but students love them so much that even if one fulfills a breadth you already have, I encourage you to take it anyway if it looks good to you. These are prize-winning professors, Nobel Prizes, teaching prizes, Pulitzer Prizes. Students stagger out of the discovery courses and the big ideas courses and the freshman, sophomore seminars going, oh my God, I love this class. I can't wait to go back. And I'll give you an example. There's a teacher named Alex Filipenko, and he leaps onto a table and he ties a donut to a string and he swings it around to demonstrate planetary motion because the class is on astrophysics. And then he throws the donut into the audience, and whoever catches it gets to eat it. And nobody forgets that lesson. Physics for presidents, biology for voters, the history of California cuisine, the history of Hollywood, language and power, earthquakes in your backyard. I want you to look at all of the discovery courses, all of the big ideas courses, and all of the freshman, sophomore seminars. You can take up to 2 freshman, sophomore seminars every semester, but only for the first 4 semesters that you're here. These are all magnificent courses. The course threads, those are mini minors that don't have departments yet. Really interesting cutting edge ideas. I encourage you to look at those. Number 7, study abroad. I wish I could talk to you for an hour about how amazing study abroad is. what I want to discuss with you for 35 seconds is what we don't want to let stop you from studying abroad. We hear students say all the time, well, I can't get my requirements while I'm abroad. It's not practical. Why would I go? But like I said, you have at least 36-ish units to do whatever you want with. You have the time to study abroad and not have it fulfill requirements if you don't want it to. I also hear students say, I don't think I can afford it. I'm sure financial aid won't cover it. When actually, financial aid really wants you to study abroad because it's actually cheaper to live anywhere else in the world than it is to live in Berkeley, California. And there's even something called the Gilman Scholarships, and I have a link to them on the list of handouts that was in the chat, and I will put it in here again. The Gilman Scholarships are for Pell Grant recipients, for those of you who are Pell Grant recipients, and it can give you up to $10,000 to study abroad. So we really, really encourage you to go. There are also people who say, I can't go because I have a job I can't leave, or I have my kid, or I have parents I have to take care of. And just know that you can go for as little as 3 weeks in the summer. And also you can take your dependents abroad if you want. Students are doing that now. So if you want to study abroad and you think you can't, please come and talk to us because we really want to encourage you to do that. And then the next opportunity here, woo, why is that doing that? The next opportunity here on this slide is the URAP, the Undergraduate Research Apprenticeship Program. It's a present for yourself, that URAP. See what I did there? And this is really cool because this is a way to get you connected to research, but it's not as nerve-wracking as just like walking into a professor's office, right? Like if there's a professor that you want to work with and you're like, hi, professor, can I join your research team? That's really nerve-wracking, right? The URAP program, you get to look through a list and you can just Google, I don't think it's on my handout list, but you can just Google URAP Berkeley and it'll come up. You can look through a list of projects that are looking for undergraduate students like you. And then you send out up to 3 applications, and if they like you, they select you for an interview. So you get some time to prepare. You get to wear a suit. You get to think about the questions you're going to ask. So it's a whole lot less nerve-wracking than just like trying to find someone to do research with. It's much more structured. And then there's another program that I thought was on this slide, but it isn't, but it is on your handout, which is UC Berkeley in Washington, D.C. And if you remember that I told you that you don't get job skills in the classroom, UC Berkeley in Washington, D.C. is the 15-unit exception because students in any major headed toward any career, not just like diplomats and future presidents, but like artists and educators and social workers, that any student headed for any career can go to Washington, D.C. You take 2 classes, but then you intern 3 or 4 days a week in any agency that you want to serve that will take you. And Berkeley students get really plum internships. Every student I've talked to who comes back from UCDC to talk to me says, this changed my life, this gave me job skills, this is the most amazing thing on my resume, and I got a job offer immediately when it was done. So I really encourage you, if you want that practical experience, to look into UCDC. All right, so those are your 3 jobs. Find the major you'll love to study, find and prepare for the career you'll love to do. Learning for learning's sake. I've got 2 steps left and like 6 minutes to cover them, which is fine. Sometimes I only have 4 minutes to cover them. We'll be fine. So step 3, ignore the pressure to look perfect. Now, I often give this talk to students who are already here on campus, and they've really encountered the pressure to look perfect. I'm not sure if you have yet or not, but you might have already. Like if you were sitting in a Zoom room with your GBA advisor and someone's like, well, I'm going to take Math 53, and you're like, oh, I'm only ready for Math 16. Does that make me a loser? Or I've got 50 units of AP credits, and you're like, oh, I didn't get to take any APs because my high school didn't have them. Does that make me a loser? Spoiler, no. But there's this incredible thing that happens at Cal that drives me crazy, which is that students only tell each other the good news. So you'll be walking across campus and you'll run into a friend and you'll be like, how are you? And your friend's like, oh, I'm great. I'm a triple major. I get great grades. College is going well. I just won a $40,000 scholarship. How are you? And if you're the typical Berkeley student, your day probably isn't going that well. And so you're probably going to feel like, ugh. But here's the thing. Your friend is lying, or your friend is at the very least omitting all the bad stuff, right? Because here's what's going on in everybody's head that no one talks about. I wasn't ready for Chem 1A or for the entry-level writing exam or whatever. My first semester feels like a disaster. I feel behind and it's awful. I don't know what my major is going to be, or I don't like it. I went on academic probation after my first semester. I'm not happy here. Everyone else seems fine. What's wrong with me? I want you to know that everybody has days like this, And everybody has days like this, but nobody talks about the second one. So you can start to feel really alone. And so, what I'd actually like you to do, if you're near your keyboard, raise your hand right now if you're already scared that you're going to be behind. And keep it up. We've got 53 participants. Let's see how many of you are raising your hand. All right, we got all the way to 32, 33. And I think some of you are probably too shy to raise your hand or too far from your keyboard. This is what happens every time. You can put your hands down now. Almost every student raises their hand because almost every Cal student is afraid of being behind. And so what we figured out is that the fear of being behind actually clearly is something that like helps you get into Berkeley, like natural selection, right? Everybody brings it, so it must be helpful. But once you get to Cal, the fear of being behind can actually be maladaptive because decisions made out of the fear of being behind are often really bad decisions. I'll give you a really easy example. Somebody says, I'm going to take Math 53, and you go, oh, well, I tested into just Math 16, or Math 1, but I'm going to be behind, so I might as well just jump into Math 53. I'm smart. I'm sure I can do it. And then you don't pass it. And then you've got a semester's worth of feeling terrible and having to retake that material, right? Or somebody, if you didn't pass a class, I only passed 8 units last semester, so I guess I should take 20 this upcoming semester to catch up. These decisions are usually bad decisions, but so many Cal students are afraid of being behind that they tend to make decisions based on that anxiety. So I'm telling you this right now because I want you to notice that little voice inside of you that says, you'll be behind, you'll be behind. And when you hear it, I want you to pull it out of your head and throw it on the ground and stomp on it. And if people look at you funny, you can say, Tori told me to do that. It's really important to learn how to hear it. And it's hard to learn how to hear it because up until now, it's been good for you. Another way to do this is to remember this wonderful quote from some person I don't know named McLaren. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Here's the modification for this rule. Be kind to yourself when you're at Cal, because every student you meet is fighting a hard battle, even if all they tell you about is their big scholarship they won. And here are some other ways to thrive in the culture of fake perfection. Number one, if you're making a decision based on the idea, I'll be behind, you've been fooled. And instead, the question to ask is, what is the best step for me to succeed at my pace? And a great way to get an answer to that is to come and talk to an L&S advisor. And so I've got a couple of links on my handout. In fact, I'll click over there right now. So that you can see it because you may not be able to get into it right now. But down here is our main page, including current deadline dates and links to make advising appointments, which you can make starting, I think, in a couple days after your registration day. And then also, we've got this, My Philosophy of Advising, which I encourage you to click on, but I'm not going to open it now. But this is an example of what you can expect from an advisor, because I want you, when you come to an advisor, see how it feels. We have almost 30 advisors in our office, and then there's also an advisor for every major. And I want you to, if you have a good appointment with an advisor and you're like, yeah, that clicked, that felt good, go back to that person. If you're like, nah, that didn't really click, find someone else. I would love to meet with all of you. I only work half time, so I know it's not possible. But also a whole bunch of you are probably going, I don't want to meet with Tori. She's way too hyper. She scares me. That's fine. We have 29 other advisors, and they're all calmer than I am. We want you to find the advisor that's a good fit for you. 2 more things on this slide before I get to the very last step, and you all have been a wonderful audience, and thank you for hanging in there. Number 3, I want you to know about something called withdrawal. Withdrawal means stopping the semester in the middle of the semester because things are going terribly. You can also wait until the end of a semester, but then not come back for the next semester if you need a break. We save your seat. And we save your seat forever. We do not punish you for withdrawing. We do not punish you for walking away and taking a break. Because this is a really intense place, and sometimes it is not the right time to be in school. Now, you can't do this until the first day of classes this fall, so don't try to withdraw now. You would lose your place at Cal. But once the first day of classes starts, anytime after that, from here on, the next 4 years, you can withdraw, you can walk away, you can take a break, and we save your seat forever because we want you to be here when it's the right time to be here. And you don't need to make that decision for yourself. You can ask an advisor. You need to ask an advisor. You need to talk to us anyway to make the process happen. And you can ask us, what are my options? And then number 4, I want you to know about something called a reduced study list. I was a disabled student. I would not have graduated from graduate school without being able to take a reduced study list, which is fewer than the minimum units. Our minimum units are 13, and we encourage all of you to be in around 13 or 14 units this semester, unless you qualify for a reduced study list because you have a disability, because you're chronically ill, because you're caring for someone in your family, like your child or your aging parents, because you're working a measly 15 hours a week. There are a couple ways to get reduced study lists later in your career, the semester you're graduating, and if you're writing an honors thesis, but that's not going to apply to any of you all in the fall. But disability, chronic illness, taking care of someone, or working 15 hours a week or more of paid employment, those students are full-time students in the college in fewer than 13 units. So you can find the information about that on our website. You can come talk to an L&S advisor. You do need our permission to do it. We want to check in with you about it. But reduced study list, if you qualify for one, I really encourage you to consider it. All right, so last step, the last of the 4 steps for success is know what your transcript means. So if we were all in a room together, I'd ask you, what is a transcript? And you would all say, it's a list of the classes you took and your grades. Yes. And so people think transcripts reflect only your talents and your skills and your hard work, right? Right? This is a dangerous fantasy because your transcript is actually 50% academic ability, but 50% bureaucratic skills. Let me repeat. Bureaucratic skills affect your transcript here at Cal, and that's not true for every school. Let's see how that works. If you don't go to class, if you don't do your homework, if you try really hard but you just don't get it, you might get an F in a class. Lots of people get their first F at Cal. It happens. But also, if you sign up for a class and then forget to drop it, if you don't finish an incomplete, if you get added to a wait list, added from a wait list without your knowledge and you don't go to the class, if your computer crashes while you're trying to drop a class and you forget to try again before a deadline, you will get that same F. On this transcript in L&S, bureaucratic failures are equal to academic failures. So don't let this happen to you. So here's how you manage your transcript, manage the bureaucracy. Number 1, know your deadlines. There's a link to an online deadline sheet in the handout I sent you, but also you can always find our deadlines on our main website. Right now they list the summer deadlines, but it'll list the fall deadlines once summer is over. If you have questions about what any deadline means, talk to your GBA advisor or come into L&S or talk to our virtual front desk. Check your Cal Central before each deadline. Make sure that you're enrolled in what you think you're enrolled in. If things start to go badly, we just encourage you to reach out for help sooner rather than later. Come and talk to an advisor anytime. We are delighted to help you. And then the last 2 things really quick. The current rule is that every student gets up to 2 freebie late drops. So if you miss their deadlines, but you really need to drop a class, you get 1 semester where you get to drop up to 2 classes. This rule might actually change for the fall. We don't know. It might get better, actually. But for now, I want you to know that if you miss a deadline, check the L&S website, see what the current rules are, but you will get up to 2 freebie drops at least in 1 semester. So you can make a change after the deadline 1 time. Also, I really want you to know that under current policy, and this could change anytime, but this is right now the summer of 2021, you can drop as many classes as you want in summer, and it doesn't impact those 2 drops. And you can drop in summer up until the day of the final. You can also change to pass, not pass grading option up until the day of the final because summer's so short. So none of you should be trapped in any summer classes once you start as L&S students in the fall. None of you should be trapped in any summer classes that aren't going well. And you should always check because our policy could change, but for now, that's the policy. All right, I squeezed in at 2:45. Thank you so much for all of your attention. I think we can stay for a couple minutes for a couple questions, but also I want you to, again, look at the handouts. You've got the link to our main desk, and you can always ask your GBA advisor questions. We're all available through email tomorrow on B courses. You also can come to our virtual front desk and make an appointment with an advisor later. But if anyone from the chatters wants to give me a couple of questions that have shown up a lot of times today, I'd love to answer them.
Hi, Tori. Sorry, I'm just like scanning to see the questions. So one thing would be if you can remind us when the 7 steps to choosing a major webinar is.
Yes, I can. Let me actually, I'm going to go to the handout sheet and I'm going to type it in 7. Let's see. Oh, I didn't do it. Why not? Oh, because it needs to be capital, I think. No, because I've signed out. That's exciting. All right, hang on, because I think it's April 23rd, but as soon as it lets me type, it should let me put that in for you. Okay, it's not letting me do this. So I'm pretty sure it is August 23rd at 11 a.m., but I can't get into my calendar here. So if somebody else could check that, August 23rd at 11 a.m. live this fall. But also we have a recording, and that recording is on our Letters in Science website. So I could actually go over there, and the recording is from last year, but they're pretty much the same. Let's see, it would be here under Progress in Planning New Student Guides, I think is where we've put those. Let me see. Scrolling down to New Freshman Student Guide, there should be videos at the bottom here. And again, I encourage you to come to the live one, and I'm sorry that I don't have it memorized here, but let's see. Watch more L&S Advisors answer your questions videos. Shoot, I think we used to have it here. I'm being very not helpful. I'm sorry. But if you go to our channel, L&S Advising, I know the 7 steps is here. Let's see, and I can give you the link now. Yay, here we go. It's somewhere around here. Oh, I am so useless. I'm so sorry. It's here. 7 steps to choose a major is here on our website. And also the workshop, I think, is August 23rd at 11 in the morning. You'll get lots of news about it from the college. You can also ask your GBA advisor. I'm sorry that I can't get it out of my computer right this minute, but please come. Another question while I try and find this? Here we go. 7 steps to choosing a major. I'm not going to play it, but I'm going to give you the link in the chat. Good. So again, this is last year's, but it's a good start. And I think this year's is August 23rd. All right. Any other questions that I can hopefully answer far more adeptly?
Yeah, one question we just got is, what would you recommend doing before coming to Cal?
Oh, great question. Let's see. First of all, resting. I really recommend that you rest. I really recommend that you take some time to just be like, hey, I just went through a pandemic and there was like some political issues going on in my country and it's just been a really stressful time. Take some downtime, take some time to give yourself some self-care and think about how you'll provide yourself with self-care while you're here. I really encourage you to rest. Other than that, my favorite thing to tell students to do is actually to start the 7 steps now. You can watch the video before August 23rd and you can start what's called the guide game, which is step 3, because you can do that almost all online. And it starts to give you a sense of what majors we have. It starts to give you a sense of what majors you might want to head for. And it's really good at sort of breaking the frame. One of the things I tell you in the 7 steps workshop is to say, when someone says, what's your major? Instead of answering, oh, it's biology, or oh, it's economics, or oh, it's French, to say, I don't know. I'll tell you in 2 years. We want you to practice not knowing your major. And you might as well start that now and watching the 7 steps video now. Even if you don't seriously start the steps yet, it can really help break that frame and leave you open to really exploring while you're here. Because remember, again, you can major in almost anything and have almost any career. So you really are free to major in what you love to study most of the time. The other thing that I would really recommend is think about what makes you happy. And I kind of said this earlier, but think about what makes you happy and figure out a way to bring it to Cal or to do it at Cal. Like I was a singer, so I joined a chorus when I got here and it helped me feel grounded. If you really like to hike, we have amazing hiking trails. If you really like foreign films, there are amazing foreign film festivals here, assuming things are open. But think about what it is that makes you happy and find a way to do it, plan to do it here, and that'll help you transition.
And then Tori, I would say this is also like relevant for tomorrow. Do you have any advice or tips for enrollment day?
I do. So each one of you should have gotten a whole bunch of enrollment tips from your GBA advisor, with links to websites that will help you and lists of ways to find alternative classes when the classes you want are full. What I want you to do is I really want you to click through to all those websites today, if you can. And let me see, I don't know if I can bring it up right now. I probably can't. But so yeah, Joanna just put one in the chat that has an enrollment frequently asked questions. But there's a page that is in there on how to use the course enrollment system. There's a page that it describes what kind of cool classes are out there that might not be full. Read through all those tips, click through all those links, make sure that you have like as many backup classes as you can think of, just because it makes things less stressful if you have choices already thought through. The other thing I'll remind you is you cannot break your Cal career in one semester. It actually doesn't matter that much what you register in tomorrow. As long as you have 13 units-ish, you have one course that's sort of for a university or college requirement, so maybe it's reading and composition, or maybe it's a breadth course or whatever, and then two classes that are sort of towards exploring a major, but again, I encourage you to be really loosey-goosey, like I don't know what majors I have, but two courses that sort of work toward majors you're interested in, and then a transition course like a decal or a Freshmen sophomore seminar, which is one of the ones that I told you is a really great opportunity. 13 units, fairly balanced. Whatever you get, you're going to be okay. You're totally going to be okay. If you don't get chemistry this semester and you want to go to medical school, you can take chemistry in the spring and you can still totally go to medical school. If you don't get computer science 61A this semester and you really want to be a computer science major, you can take it in the spring and you can be a computer science major. So I'd say number one, prepare yourself in advance to have the things at your fingertips that'll help you not feel so stressed out. And number two, prepare yourself emotionally that whatever happens, you're gonna be okay. Um, and then know that you can email your GBA advisor. We're all sitting there tomorrow available to answer your questions.
And then if I could just add to that, Tori, I would also say, there will be a lot of movement in scheduling between now and the ad drop deadline, which is, let me see, I just opened this up. Is it September 14th? Sorry, I lost the deadline, but I'll just put it in the chat shortly. But there's just a lot of movement. So definitely want to reiterate what Tori was saying about, like, if tomorrow you don't get everything that you want, like oftentimes it's because students are in the same position, right? We're all really nervous about getting things and we're just adding and adding. But you'll notice the closer that we get to the first day of the semester, there's going to be a lot of movement within the wait list. If you do have specific questions about the wait list, that's something that you go to the major advisor for. And the reason for that is because they oftentimes, well, because that is their field, right? Their area of concentration, they know the movement trends. So it's easier to get a more direct answer from a major advisor versus a college advisor.
Any other questions before we close?
Tori, but one thing that also was asked a couple times was, can we take more than one seminar?
Absolutely, absolutely. You can take up to 2 per semester. And actually, I don't even know if that rule still stands. That's the rule I was taught a few years ago, but it occurs to me I haven't heard anyone mention it for ages. So you might even be able to take more than 2, but at least 2 per semester. And that's 4 semesters, right? Until you get past the sophomore level. And then there will be senior seminars and seminars run by the professors in your department that are really exciting. The discovery courses there, it's true there's only 3 for this fall. Someone asked about that, but there's usually far more in spring. Big ideas courses tend to fluctuate as well. And there's also just, if you ask around, there are amazing classes that aren't part of any list, but that people love, like Poetry for the People is an amazing class. And also the American Cultures classes tend to be wonderful. So, but that's that. Anything else, Joanna?
No, that's pretty much the questions, the big topics that came up. What I think, just if you do have very specific questions about the class, you can always contact the professor, or I would say the department directly, probably the easiest.
Yep. Yep. Listen, good luck tomorrow, everybody. And we are so looking forward to seeing you in the fall. Rest up. It was a really great question. I'm really glad that someone asked it. Take care of yourselves, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to have such a wonderful job and to help y'all out. You're the joyful reason that we're here, the reason that we have these fabulous jobs. So thank you and welcome, and we'll see you in the fall.